Whoa, whoa, whoa. Is that you, James McGrath?
Andy Gaunt coming loud and proud on a Friday afternoon from Minneapolis, Minnesota, USA, baby.
Oh, dude, I'm glad it's a Friday afternoon for you because it is early here on a Saturday morning. And actually, well, it's not as early as I thought it was supposed to be, right?
We did have a little challenge counting hours, didn't we? Counting maybe not a strong suit of yours, but inviting wicked guests to podcasts, definitely a strength.
Yeah, dude.
Definitely. We've got a fun guest coming today.
Should we get into it? Let's just stop fucking about. Hey, gang. I can't use a hey, gang.
Yeah, you can.
That's...
Screw you. I'm doing it.
Okay.
Welcome to Curb and Canyon.
So, James, I'm pumped for today. Are you pumped?
I am. I've got one of my current YouTube crushes here to talk to me and you.
I know. Pretty exciting. He's someone we've both wanted to have on the show for a long time. He's got a brilliant YouTube channel. He's one of those people who, when he does a job on his car, you just want to watch him do it and you want to hear him talk about it. He is super passionate about cars. Absolutely prolific as a producer of content. He's literally been on YouTube since day one. He can drift a car like Chris Harris sometimes. He's a DIYer. He's an inventor. And when we asked, he said, yes, I'm keen to talk to him about everything from homemade mudguards to brightly colored North Face polar fleece jackets. It's Tommy from Tommy L Garage. Tommy, welcome.
Hey, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited about this.
Not as excited as us.
Yeah. Before you kick it off, I have to ask a question though. Andy, I noticed you're a 917. No, I think James, right? 917 area code. What's up with that? That's a New York area code.
It is, and I am never giving it up. There are no more 917 numbers available. When I first moved to the States, I lived in New York for many years. I was living in Manhattan. So I got myself a cell phone, and even though I've moved back to the Midwest, I'm still proud of my 917 number.
That's where the accent is from. I thought it was Austria, but I get okay, great, nice.
Given we're a Porsche podcast, shouldn't we be calling it 917? I mean, come on.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah, and we should make all of our episodes 9 hours and 11 minutes long.
Yeah, great. And then we can start taking photos of our iPhones when the time is 9:11 and sharing them on social media.
I do that every day.
Is that just a shit, Jay Reid?
I do that too. It's sickening. I know.
But yeah, generally it is to really annoy Jay Reid. In fact, there's about 5 or 6 people that I know that send him those on a daily basis just to wind him up.
Yeah, that's like me right before Christmas. Everyone starts sending me photos of 911s with Christmas trees on the roof.
Oh, I've already got a few ready. I've got a few lined up, Andy. Just you wait.
Well, I'll be sending you mine because this year, again, I plan on putting a Christmas tree on my 911.
For real?
Yellow and green would match. Yeah. I don't think I've done this on... I've done it on the M3 a couple of times, but I don't think I've done it on the 911. So, yeah, I think it's time.
Tommy, you're a guest, so I can't, I can't say anything other than supportive words. I think it's great that you're going to put a Christmas tree on your 911. It's a fabulous demonstration of what a usable supercar it is, and not at all played out on social media.
Definitely not. Definitely not. But yeah.
Hey, so Tommy, thanks for coming on, man. We've been wanting to make this happen for a while. Can you just, for people who don't know, for anyone who's, I don't know, not ever looked at YouTube and doesn't know the Tommy L story, who are you? What's the Tommy L story? What do you do?
Yeah, so Tommy L story used to be Extreme Tommy. That used to be my YouTube handle years and years ago. And what I would do is I would just upload random clips of my skateboarding, snowboarding, and car adventures. Just like, for example, I would hear a cool exhaust and I would record it on my on a camera back then, and then just upload it to YouTube just so I can send a link to a friend. And then as I when I was in my early 20s, my first real car was because I used to back, when I was in high school and college, I drove my parents' car. They used to have a 97 Chevy Lumina, which was an awesome American car. Then a 2000 Buick Century. This is what I drove throughout college. And then, but then when I graduated, I was always into cars, but I graduated, I got into Volvos out of all cars. So my first car was a 2003 Volvo S40, and when I bought it, I didn't realize it had a turbocharged straight i4 engine, and what made it kind of cool is it was a very tunable car, but not many people were tuning Volvos at the time, so it was kind of unique. I felt kind of cool, and then so I joined some message boards, and then I would just put together DIYs. I would start tinkering. I always liked to tinker with stuff, so I would I would do a write up, and then I would do a quick video, but it wasn't anything sophisticated. Just sort of I didn't even know how to cut on or how to make edits or anything. So
Gotcha.
So I would just do a single clip, and then so I started posting those videos, and then really nothing came out of it. But then when I finally, and I went through a couple of Volvos. I had an S60R after that, actually two, then a couple of other ones. But then when I picked up my 2017 BMW M3 Competition with a manual transmission, it was a slightly used car, so I flew out to Wisconsin, and then I filmed a video for my family and kids just so I can have a memory of what it was like, to one day, when I one day picked up a cool car. I recorded a video and I posted it online, and somehow that video started getting a lot of hits. And I remember I couldn't understand it. I was sitting with my wife at a restaurant, and then I'm looking at it. Wow, look at this! I'm actually getting subscribers on YouTube. What is this? I went from like 20 to 200, and at the end of dinner it was like 300. Obviously, it wasn't anything crazy, but I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I learned about monetizing and how YouTube works, and I said, okay, maybe I can. And it was never about hey, I want to be a crazy content creator. I just wanted to document what I did to the car on YouTube, and people started getting a kick out of it. Doing simple things, and it just kind of evolved ever since. Currently I don't even think twice about it. Anytime, and I know you guys are sort of similar, right? But anytime I get something new for the car, and it's time for me to install it, I always budget not just my personal time, but also the time it takes for me to film it and position the camera and the microphone and stuff like that. But so that's how it started.
Volvos don't sound very extreme though, Tommy. If we started off being extreme, I can get the skateboarding and the snowboarding, but not so much on the Volvos.
I think that's part of the vibe, though, isn't it? Like you're a skater, snowboarder, and then the sort of sleeper car that no one expects. I think that is that's pretty extreme. And this is Tommy. This is like 2006, right? YouTube launches in 2005, I think, and you are a true early adopter.
I never realized, but I suppose, So I when I started making initially BMW content, I removed or delisted most of the old videos, but you can still see, if you actually go through it, you can still see some of the old ones. I think one of the ones that I kept, I used to intern at this company, and the owner of the company had a beautiful F355.
Yeah, I saw that this morning.
Manual. Yeah. So I remember that was actually one of the also first videos that I posted, because it just had the most amazing sound. And the cool story about that car is we were at an event, and and he brought the car, and someone else took it for a spin. And me being a kid back then, just an intern, think, hey, can I take it for a spin? He's like, sure. The guy handed me the keys, and I went for a drive. Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Oh, and that's the video that went viral on Supercar Fails. I remember that. The 355 takes off from a car show and goes into a gutter.
Oh yeah, that's that's the one. That's exactly the one.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So when does Porsche kind of enter your sphere? Because obviously you're BMW guy for quite some time. How does Porsche sort of find its way into your world?
You know what? It's always been in the back of my mind, but it didn't click until I was ready for a cool car. So in 2016 or so, when I started, when I was done with Volvos and I was ready to get a cool car, I finally took the time to learn about Porsches, because I knew about, in that 911 there's a Cayman, but I didn't know much about the trims, and I started studying it, and I said to myself, was it 2000? I guess, yeah. But then I said to myself, you know what? I can easily get like a 997. That one, that two would be a stretch. But then I realized that we're starting a family. Actually, I already had a child, so that's probably not the best car as a first car. So I ended up getting the M3, but when in reality I really wanted a 911. So that's always been in the back of my mind. And then I got the M3 out of my system eventually, and then towards the end of my ownership of the M3, my friend Jeff, who at the time had a 997.1 Carrera S, if I'm not mistaken, but it was slightly modified. Let me take it for a spin, and that was that was it. It was an older car, but the way it drove, the way it handled, the way it sounded, the seating position, I was absolutely sold, and I was sold on not only that, but also my preference towards NA engines, even though currently I don't have any NA cars, but yeah, so I did that, and that eventually led to me buying my first Porsche, which was my 981 Cayman S, which was very, very sweet, and I quickly, I sold the M3 right after that because I just didn't see the reason to own two, especially what really got me with the whole Porsche ownership is, and I know everyone says it, right? It's kind of a cliche thing to say, but it's that engagement, right? That even the manual transmission. I've always been a manual transmission person, and I thought a BMW with a manual transmission was the ultimate car until I drove a Porsche with a manual transmission. Completely, you guys can relate, right? Yeah. Completely different experience. Then I went, after driving Jeff's car, I went back to my M3 and I realized how rubbery the transmission is, how soft the clutch is. So I was just kind of that was a big contributor.
Yeah. It's funny, James and I were just talking about this on our last pod, that level of engagement you get from a manual transmission, and the PDK is such an impressive piece of technology, and I think incredibly enjoyable to use. But yeah, the experience when you're driving in a manual, I don't think it can be matched, at least not on the street.
Yeah, I totally agree. Although I do think that a manual transmission with an NA engine feels better than a manual with a turbocharged engine. I don't know. It's just
that's interesting.
It's just a different level of engagement. I guess I like winding the and my comparison is my Cayman with my current 901.2 Carrera T, which is obviously a turbocharged engine. I really liked winding that Cayman and then just switching gears. It wasn't quick at all, but it was just it was just a lot of fun, kind of, going from second to third. That was my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So tell me about the T, because that car is, well, let's say anything but stock. You've made plenty of mods to it, right? Do you buy a car like that, get it home and think, yeah, it's perfect, and then over a course of time start thinking, actually, you know what, it could do with X, Y, and Z? Or do you buy it always with the plan of, okay, I need to now sit down and work out how I make this my own interpretation of what the perfect 911 should be?
I think it's the latter, kind of like you and James. I mean, seeing what you guys do, I think you have the same approach. But with the 911 for me, it was slightly different because, and again, I have to go back to my M3 because and even with the Volvo 60R, so I modified it, I drove it, and I said, crap, why did I modify it? It's just, I kind of made it worse. It's not really drivable, so I sold it. Then with the M3 was modified. I thought it was tastefully modified, but then, towards the end of my ownership, it was kind of too low for me. It was too bumpy. I had kids. I couldn't really take it on my snowboarding trip as much as I wanted to. But with the 911, when I got it, I knew that at the very least I would lower it because I just can't stand. I cannot drive cars that are not lowered. Sorry, James. I know you're lowering yours.
Let's get into this. Let's get into it right now. This is the whole reason this interview happened, was because, James, this is an intervention. We've been planning it a while, me and Tommy, and here it is. No. Here it is. Tommy, unload on him. Unleash.
That's right. No, I mean, listen, I think closing the fender gap is always something that's necessary. But to kind of go back to what I was saying, with the T, I knew it was a pretty great car, so I didn't want to do too much, so I lowered it. Then I did I wanted to make it a little louder, so I did the Sport Cats, but then I wanted to make it just a little more louder, so I did the headers. And then after adding some spacers, I thought I was done. And then obviously I did some maintenance stuff, like I continued, the previous owner wrapped the front, so I continued, so I PPF'd the rest of the car. And then my buddy Jeff again talked me into a numeric shifter, so I did that. I hardwired all my dash cams and stuff, and then purely because of the fact that I'm a kind of a vain person, I liked the way the car looked when it was lowered, but I didn't like what was behind the spokes. So I ended up buying a big brake kit only because I liked the way it looked. But then I was actually pleasantly surprised at how much of an improvement it made, especially with track pads. It's what a difference. And yeah, that's kind of how it started. And I don't think I went too crazy with it. I did when I did the annual, or rather the 3-year maintenance. It was a pretty big project where everything in the back came off. I also upgraded the air filter, so now I've got that high flow air filter. Didn't really make a difference, but the biggest difference, and again, James, I know you can relate, is tuning the car. It was basically unleashing another 125 horsepower, and that's when I really started feeling connected to the car. And what I mean by that is, before the tune, the car was obviously nimble, but it was not it just wasn't quick enough for me. There was always that sort of, it just didn't feel fast enough, right? So the tune completely fixed it, and now I feel 100% connected to the car. I know how much power I have in second, third gear. They're really the fun gears, and it's just it's a lot of fun.
I feel more connected to my car now that I've tuned it in a way where I feel more responsibility and maybe liability.
Right.
That something might go wrong now that I've tinkered with it. But I get what you mean, absolutely. It's much more my car now, and it's got my touch, it's got my finish. I feel like I understand it more now as well.
Yeah, exactly, totally. And every time you take it apart and you put it back together, you kind of you develop that deeper connection. Like you said, you understand how things work, and for me, also for the longest time, I wanted to keep the car as original as possible
Yeah.
for reasons that way it would be get a better price when I sell it. And then it kind of hit me, first of all, I know everyone says it, but I have no plans of selling this car.
Yeah.
My son loves it. And then why would I want to save a car for the next owner? So it took me a little time to kind of get used to that idea, but now I'm really, really enjoying it. Loving the car.
I think one of the great things about modifying a car, even if you're just talking about aesthetic touches, is that it helps to separate your car out from the regular Porsches, and particularly when you're talking about a modern 911 or a modern Cayman. When I owned my 991, because that was my daily driver, I made no modifications to it. I didn't lower it. I put on very mild spacers, and that was it. And in terms of visibility of that car out on the street, I may as well have been driving a Toyota Camry. I would drive past another Porsche owner, you do the little wave, you do the little finger lift up from the steering wheel, and just get crickets. I just get nothing. And so I always love that thing of you're modifying a car partly so that you're saying to the world, hey, I'm not just driving a Porsche. I'm really into this. This means something different to me.
Yeah, but I also think there's a fine line, and I think it comes with age between modifying the car and kind of really
ruining the car.
Yeah, I guess so. And again, nothing against anyone, right? Who's listening out there and is modifying the cars. I feel like it's based on someone's personality, based on the age. For me, I guess the older I got, the more my taste in modifying has changed. I like to keep it sort of OEM plus.
OEM
and
plus.
also, and also having gone to the track many times. When you go to the racetrack, and I'm not talking about racing. I'm not a racer at all, but I'm talking about just regular HPD events. It's you realize that people who are really into HPDE and really driving the cars fast, learning the rules of the track, they don't modify it in the way that other people on the street modify cars. So you don't put wide body kits, you don't put lots of unnecessary cooling and ducts and all of that. They keep it simple to make it reliable and to make it easy to work on. So I was also inspired. But again, I don't want to discourage anyone from modifying their cars the way they feel should be modified, because like you said, Andy, it's sort of a reflection of one's personality, right?
Yeah, and I love that. I love going to a show and seeing a car that has been modified in a way that I wouldn't do, but that doesn't invalidate the way the owner has modified it. And I love talking to that person about why'd you make that choice? Why'd you do this? And I can look at anything and go, okay, that interior is nuts, but I love it. I wouldn't do it, but I love it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Kind of like did you see Chris Harris's M5, the interior that he did?
Oh, the corduroy, right?
Yeah, the corduroy. It's orange corduroy. Yeah. So talk about individual taste.
Yeah, exactly. I guess if you're Chris Harris, though, why not, right?
That's true.
Yeah. You touched on this before, Tommy. The kind of difference between BMW and Porsche, because you're obviously a let's say a Porsche convert, but still seemingly a BMW guy as well. What's the appeal of the two brands? How do they differ, and what do you get out of those two different brand experiences?
Wow, great question. So I think with the 911, I get I feel cool factor driving it, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of the car, right? And I it's always been, I also feel sort of humbled that I'm able to have a car like this. I grew up in a pretty poor household, and we grew up in Poland. Then my family moved to the U.S., so we had a pretty rough upbringing, and rough in terms of my parents worked really hard to support my sister and I, both my sisters and I. So now being able to have a car like this, it's kind of a humbling experience, but. And so driving this kind of makes me feel really, really proud of my accomplishments. But with the M5, with the BMW, there's there's something also cool in a different way about the BMW. I have to say, BMW has great technology. My F9, the M5 has the integration between even Apple CarPlay and the touchscreen and how everything is simple to use. It's really great. I did, when I was buying the M5, I did look at the a Panamera Sport Turismo. I just at the time you're getting an M5, you're just getting a better deal. For example, I couldn't get a Panamera with ceramic brakes, but for the price that I paid for my M5 with ceramic brakes. So things like that, and I feel like I'm also very comfortable working on BMWs, so that gives me the comfort level. But also I like the sort of the brand diversity. I like my Porsche, and this is not my last Porsche. I want to continue. I want to add to the stable. But the BMW is just another brand that I know about, and it just kind of also has a very soft spot in my heart. And that's I started my small side hustle with TLG guards on a BMW, so I don't think I can ever be without a BMW in my stable.
yeah. It's funny because I feel like I'm only really just waking up to BMW. I used to follow them a little bit back when I was a kid, but cars like the M5, I just think do such an incredible job of being so many different things to so many different people, and I think the driving experience of these good, fast, modern Beamers is phenomenal.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? Driving the M5 made me realize that I was a manual transmission snob. Because
really?
Even though it's not even though it's not a dual clutch, it still shifts very, very fast, and it makes you feel like you're in a video game. It's and I use paddle shifters all the time. I would say 90% of my driving, I use paddle shifters. When I want to accelerate a little bit, I just downshift with the paddles. I also actually use the lever too. Which I'm actually disappointed the new M5 doesn't have it. It's got a little slider. I know. But yeah, so which ones, Andy? Which ones would you, if this was if you were in the market for BMW, which one would you go for?
Yeah, look, I've always had a soft spot for the M3. I recently my daily is an M340i, and I actually love that car. It blends in traffic. Again, may as well be a Camry, but the ride quality, the chassis dynamics on that car, and then the speed is phenomenal because it has torque for days. It has so much torque. I took it on a drive with my friends in Porsches, and other than the super tight twisty stuff where just the weight transfer from corner to corner started to become a little bit of a hindrance. Other than that, it kept up just fine. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'd love an M3. I really like the M2, and if I could convince myself that I was comfortable using that as a daily driver, I would actually have that as a daily driver, and then sometimes rally car.
Yeah. No, and the B58 is an amazing engine, and
beast.
And actually, this week, Brian from Keys announced that he built the world's fastest M340i. I don't really do quarter mile stuff, but I think it's like 8.6 second quarter mile, which is an insane car.
That is nuts.
that he built in his shop. Yeah, so very very fun cars.
Yeah. Hey, so we usually talk news on the pod. James, I thought it'd be a good time to talk about the new Carrera T, given that we have a Carrera T owner actually on the show. What do we all think? What do we all think?
I love it. I really like it. I was excited when they brought out Tommy's version of the T. I've got a friend here in the Twin Cities that has got the original Carrera T, and it's in absolutely mint condition. My friend's dad passed away. There was hardly any mileage on the car at all. They handed it to him, and so I just happened to learn quite a bit about the classic T as the new one was announced a few months later, and so that model has really sort of captured my attention in the last couple of years. So to see the latest one released, I've configured my Dream T on Porsche.com about 10 times so far. I haven't managed to yet get one configured for less than 160 grand or something like that. No. But I think it's almost a bit of a cliche now. People, who've reviewed it and talk about it, from the amateurs to the pros, all talk about how it's the driver's car. And we should probably explore that a little bit here, especially because we've got a T owner on the pod here, Tommy. But it seems to me like it is. You get all the you get the 911 silhouette, you got the 911 features. It's the base Carrera with all of the mistakes kind of fixed and solved. It's the manual transmission. There is so much to like about that model. I really like it.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like they've actually doubled down on it too. They've gone, do you know what? Let's only do this as a manual, for example. And again, people can choose whichever transmissions they like. I have no beef with that at all. But I've always felt like the quote unquote correct spec for a T is manual transmission. It has to be. So I love that they've just committed to that. I love that wooden shift knob. I mean, that had me at hello.
And what's behind that shift knob is a 6-speed manual.
6-speed manual. I know.
Oh, I didn't realize that actually. Yeah. So even more, I guess, of a purist car.
Although I hear the ratios are the same though, right?
Right. I think they just cut off the 7th gear, so you're just cruising at higher RPMs in 7th gear.
In which case, I'm not sure. I'm not sure in practical terms there's a huge benefit. Although, Tommy, I know some people I see online do talk about that shift and how coming from 7th you can find your way accidentally into, I don't know, 4th or 2nd or something that's a little bit clunky. I've not experienced it myself. Have you found that?
No, not at all. I guess maybe I always pay attention to it, but I think the numeric shifter also made it a little sort of easier to not miss the shift.
Yeah.
But and quite frankly, I do enjoy the 7th gear because it really allows me to get pretty decent MPGs.
Yeah,
on those days when I'm, you're on the highway and you really don't want to, you want to cruise in the right lane. You really get decent MPGs in 7th gear.
Yeah, I agree.
What attracted you to the T as opposed to any other models, considering this is your first venture into the 911 range?
So I wanted something unique, and I couldn't afford a GT3. But I, after doing some research, the T has some GT3 components like the mechanical limited slip and some suspension tweaks. I also really like the fact that it has the fabric door pulls as opposed to regular door handles. Oh my gosh, that is one of the best things. Less sound deadening. I really couldn't care less about the plastic windows. It's really, I think it's a gimmick. Not having a rear defroster has never been an issue. But yeah, the T doesn't have it. But that's really it. Just having something unique. And I know there were I'm probably gonna get it all wrong, but less than 2,000 imported to the US, maybe uh, of the 901.2T. So having something that's again so unique and maybe will hold its value better. Not that I'm selling it, but that's really what attracted me to it. And I wanted something simple, and I didn't want, let's say, rear steer. I don't want axle lift. I specifically wanted the seats that I got. As much as I would love the buckets, I love seeing my kids jump in the back seats and go for joyrides with me. So yeah, that's really it.
Tommy, where do you drive it? A weekend drive, a Sunday morning. Are you in the twisties? You obviously take it to the track a little bit. What's your kind of favorite use case for the T?
So I do live in a pretty mountainous area, so there's a lot of nice twisty roads by me, and also a lot of just straight highways. So I have the privilege of being able to do that. But I'm mostly on weekends when I have the time. I do take it into the mountains on the twisties. Sometimes I just go for evening drives by myself and just wind the car up. But lately, what's been exciting me is I've discovered a new way to enjoy my 911 at the track, and it's not HPDE. It's they call it a driver clinic. I don't know if other states have it, but there's this in the Northeast. There's this one group called SCDA, Sport Cars Driving Association, or something like that. And they put up these events. They put up a lot of HPD events, but they also put up these driver clinics, essentially open to all cars. If you have a pickup truck, minivan, whatever, you can go. And it splits into two sections throughout the day or throughout the 4 hours: autocross, and then skid pad. And then actually the third section is third section of the day is combining autocross and skid pad. And this really opened up my eyes to what the car is capable of when you turn the traction control off and just want to have some fun with it. Because the skid pad, you learn how to take the car sideways, and once it clicks in your brain, you just can't stop driving your car sideways. and autocross, you're always in second gear. So I want to do a lot more of these events. So I did 2 so far. I'm waiting for the next one to be announced. Hopefully it's colder, so I can slide the car a little better. My big thing now is I want to get better at at sliding. It's kind of hard sliding the 911 because you've got all the grip. But I've discovered that lately, and I'm just I can't stop thinking about it. Have you guys ever done anything like that?
I've done track days, but not that kind of driver education, and not the sliding, which I think is to my detriment, because I think one of the real benefits about doing a day where you are putting your car deliberately into a slide and learning how that feels and learning how to control it is that if my car were to go into a slide around a corner on the street in the hills, that's a new experience for me. So the control of that, the rectification of that, is something that I'd be solving in the moment versus having experienced it multiple times as you have. So I think there's a real benefit to it.
Right. I agree. And, I kind of got the bug many years ago because during my snowboarding trips, we would always find empty parking lots and find a place where we can do donuts. And for the most part, it was all-wheel drive vehicles back then, so it was pretty easy. With rear-wheel drive in the snow, it's not really that fun. But I always wanted to learn how to keep my car sideways, and it's starting to click. It's starting to click. I did some sideways actions in a closed parking lot with the M5 the other day, and that was actually surprisingly easy. Very, very easy compared to the 911 because, longer chassis, less weight in the back.
James, did you slide when you were at Porsche Experience Center?
Yeah, I did. And I just couldn't get the hang of it. to be honest. I must have went round and did it 3 or 4 times. And I remember sitting there waiting my turn and having my instructor just say, okay, look, this is what you got to do. And I was like, yeah, got it. Yeah, perfect. Sounds really straightforward. And then every time I went across, I just fucked it up completely. Like from a little bit to a massive fuck up. I just couldn't get it under control. I don't think I got it under control once.
Maybe it was because you were uncomfortable in those bucket seats. Because I know you don't like them.
What helped me? And I had some good instructors, but it's all about looking at where you want to go. It's, when you're at the skid pad, as opposed to where the car is going. And one of the examples that the instructor used, he said, "Hey, you've all seen this video of a kid drifting his car in a parking lot, and there's one lamp post in the middle, and he manages to drift into it. And the reason being is because he, instead of looking where he wanted to go, he was looking at the post, trying to avoid it, but his brain and the whole body coordination basically steered him directly into it. So that was a really, really good tip that he gave me, and it really worked well.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting, circling back to the T, James, you were saying you'd spec'd yours up and couldn't get one for less than a whole lot of money. I can't remember how much you said. I wonder if we're at the point with the pricing on these new 911s that it does somewhat protect the values of those cars that are 6, 7, 8 years old, because the prices now are such that the cost of entry is so high that to get a brand new Carrera T, you could get a second gen 991 GT3 manual. And literally in this market in Australia, you could do that. So I think if you're an owner of, let's say, the generation of 911 that you two guys own, I think that's actually not a bad thing for values.
I think you're right, and it I definitely do think about it from time to time, just to make myself feel good about the money that I spent on the T, and knowing that the value probably kind of remains flat, because you're right, the cost of entry nowadays is just getting higher and higher on all these 911s. So the used market will, look what happened to the 99, even 99, the 996, 996s. You could, I don't know in Australia, but in the US, even high teens, like $19,000-$20,000 for like a 99 2000.
Yeah.
I don't think you can touch those anymore for that.
Nah.
Same thing with the 997. That market has gone up a little bit. And, it didn't. I don't think it went crazy up, but it's no longer as flat as it used to be, because also people are realizing that the IMS issue kind of overblown. And if it's been addressed, that's even better.
Right.
So I think it's great. What's happening to these prices of new vehicles is great for owners like us. I feel like if we were to ever sell the car, that is.
I was going to say, owners like us that promise, at the moment at least, that we're never going to sell our cars.
Yeah.
James, I think you've had 3 or 4 in the time that I've known you.
That's correct. 5 total, and this is my 6th. No, this is my 5th. Yeah, and every single one of them, I've said to myself, "Oh, this is it. I'm going to be driving this car forever.
This is it. This is the one."
Yeah.
I mean, even the Cayenne, was that the...
Oh, no. The Cayennes don't count. I've had 5 911s. The first Cayenne I had was the base, and as much as I enjoyed driving that off the lot after I totaled my Jeep Grand Cherokee, pretty quickly, and I mean within about 10 miles, I realized that it was just boring as shit, and I probably should have gone for the S. So I kept hold of that for about a year, and then I was in a Chevy Silverado. I was doing my redneck phase for about 18 months. Sold that, and then now I'm in a Cayenne S, and that's about the right amount of power for now.
I agree. It's a great platform. As a matter of fact, I was very much considering a Cayenne S before I got the M5, and ultimately went with the M5 because I just I was afraid of what you just described with the base Cayenne, that it would be, it would be fun, because for the level of fun that I was looking for. But I also know someone who's got a Cayenne GTS, and he loves it. Great car.
I've driven the GTS and I've driven the Cayenne Turbo, and both of those are absolutely phenomenal cars. Like the Turbo especially, nobody needs an SUV that fast. I mean, for God's sake, just that's ridiculous.
Not to talk about my friend Jeff quite a lot, not too much, but
we're gonna meet Jeff.
He's he's the one. Believe it or not, he's the one who turned me into this onto this podcast, because I think at one point you guys mentioned me, and he's like, "Hey, look." So that's why I started listening. But yeah, so he had a Cayenne S. I'm probably screwing up. And then he ended up getting a Turbo S that came with, it was, I think, like a 7-year-old car, but that came with a unlimited mile 2-year warranty.
Perfect.
So it's perfect. But he ended up letting it go. Anyways, he got an X7. But yeah, that was and like you said, way too fast of an SUV, but it's so much fun and it sounds amazing.
Yeah, there's something kind of goofy fun about fast SUVs. I had a Grand Cherokee SRT, and that thing was just a monster. But yeah, kind of goofy fun. Mind you, and it pains me to say it, when you were saying a minute ago, Tommy, that you were weighing up between the Cayenne and the M5. Even though we're on a Porsche podcast, I think you made the right choice.
Yeah, and my other family car is a crossover. We've got the Tesla, so I just didn't want, for the times when my wife is driving the Tesla and I'm not driving the 911, I don't want to be stuck in another SUV. Nothing wrong with SUVs. It's just I just ultimately went with a sedan.
Yeah.
Tommy, a lot of people on YouTubers talk about the platform and how it's changed, given you've been on it since the beginning. And I don't want to get too inside baseball, but how have you, as a content creator, how have you seen YouTube change?
Obviously there's a lot more shorts. Everyone's into doing the video shorts. I'm not necessarily into it because I don't view YouTube as my source of income. I just enjoy making videos and using iMovie to slice my videos together, and so I keep it simple. But I just I've seen that change. It's also refreshing to see that you see a lot of newcomers out there, and people are trying stuff, and many people reached out to me, and and I encourage them to do so. I'm always happy to share feedback, and how to get started. First thing I tell them is get a good microphone, get yourself mic'd up, and then use your iPhone, and that's it. Because having good sound is 70% of the experience in the video. But I think it's changed a lot in terms of how much content there is out there, and the only thing I'm sort of not, it's just not my style, is people doing things for the shock value. Let me do something crazy just so I can hope to get, and I guess it works for views. For me, since I don't necessarily, I almost never look at my stats or how to improve my stats. I just do it because I really, really enjoy it, and I want to have a record of the work that I've done to my cars, and and hopefully they help people in the future. I mean, listen, I've also made videos about non-car related stuff. I have some really good videos about snow blowers. There's one that's doing really well. Yeah, I got this. I moved into a house a couple of years ago. It snows here a lot. First thing I did, I got this massive snow blower, and the video was actually so great that the following year I was checking out at BJ's. For you, Andy, I don't know if you have. It's a big superstore where you can get a lot of items at a discount. Yeah. And when you walk out, there's a person kind of like at Walmart checking your receipt, and there's this older gentleman. He's like, "Wait, I know you." I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Oh, you've got the snowblower, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." So this older guy recognized me from a snowblower video.
So Tommy, given that I've started really kind of following the path that you've laid out in terms of all the mods, I've been to be fair, I think for the majority of them, I've made the decision to do a certain mod on my own, and then I've gone to YouTube to see what other people have done. And invariably, you're the first person to come up with a DIY video.
His YouTube stalking you.
yeah. Completely incidentally. But yeah, you just seem to have done everything that I'm thinking about doing to my car. And now I'm certainly looking to you for ideas. But of all of the jobs that you've done, were there any that you got started and you thought, man, I wish I hadn't started this one, or this one was definitely way more complicated than I was expecting? I kind of got the sense that maybe that was the case with the headers.
Yeah, headers were challenging because I did not have a lift at the time, and just crawling under the car and dealing with the rusty bolts was very, very challenging. But I still got through it. For me, it was about chasing the sound, so I knew that the end result was what I was after, so I didn't mind the challenge. But one thing that really got me stuck once was when I had the Cayman, and I decided to lower it and put the I was installing the X73 GTS suspension in it. So I was springs, dampers, and sway bars. I did the front, which was fairly complicated, especially for the sway bar. You've got to drop the subframe, loosen up the steering rack, and all of that. And again, I was doing it on a set of quick jacks, so it's from that perspective, it was a little challenging. And then when it came to the back, because the previous owner drove the Cayman quite a lot in the snow, it appears so, because it was a bit rusty underneath. And I didn't have the proper tools. I think there's suspension required like a 24 millimeter wrench or something like that. I was looking at it and I was trying to figure out with the set of tools that I have and the lack of lift, can I really do it successfully? And I decided no, so I pulled the plug on it. So I put everything back together. I lowered the front and I took the car to a shop, and I said, please do the back for me. So that was my, but it was the regret of not having the right tools and equipment for the job. I don't mind doing the work, because the way I see it, it's none of the stuff that we sort of work on and modify is really rocket science. And I think when people realize that working on cars, as long as you have the right set of tools and sort of you remember how things go back together, and you've got you've got YouTube, you've got message boards, although who uses message boards now? It's fairly straightforward. So tools and equipment will get you there. Not to not be afraid. But at that time, to kind of go back to your question, I was a little over my head in terms of the equipment, and I decided to pull the plug and have someone else do it. And I'm happy. I'm happy I did. But that was the only time when I regretted something like that. I know this is a Porsche podcast, but when I first did the suspension on my M5, and I lowered it twice. First time it wasn't low enough, so I ended up getting a different suspension. And when I first took it apart in the back, I made two mistakes. I didn't pull the seat belt out, because you have to fold the seats to remove the suspension. And when I just didn't pull it out, so the seat belt ended up retracting itself, and I couldn't pull it back, so I had to disassemble the whole seat belt assembly. And yeah, so it was like an extra 2 hours worth of work. And then also, I didn't realize there was a cable that I had to disconnect, so I ended up, damaging one of the connectors. But I corrected that. None of those things ever made me say, "Crap, I probably shouldn't have touched it." It makes me, doing these things kind of makes me, like I was saying earlier, the fact that I can disassemble something and put it back together and get to know that piece of equipment on a more intimate level. That's a good feeling.
You see, you've just touched a nerve there, or at least for me, which is there have been a couple of jobs where one particular step, which should have been straightforward and should have only taken a few minutes, has taken hours and blood and sweat and tears and too many C words and F words to count, screaming at the car in the garage. And it's been trying to get, like a bolt out of my muffler. When I tried to get my Fister exhaust on a 997, it was trying to get the airbag to release in my 997. And these jobs I'd planned, twice as long. So this job was going to take an hour. I'm going to plan for 2 hours so I can film it and take my time. And I'm in there for 4 hours and I'm screaming and I'm sweating and I'm just utterly ready to kill someone or break something. They're the moments that just drive me crazy. Those tiny little tasks that for whatever reason, because of rust or you've just approached it from slightly the wrong angle, you just it's a time suck. You just lose that time and you feel like you've been robbed in some way.
Totally. But you know what? You've got the garage space, so you can kind of relate to it. But I've learned that, and especially if you have if it's not your daily car, if you have another car, to let things sit, just let it marinate overnight, another day, maybe 2 days, and come back to it. You'll have a different approach at doing things. So when I was doing my 981 Cayman's exhaust, I had a similar issue with the with the bolts. There were one of those, the sort of the insert bolts from the wedge bolts, we call them, from the back, and then you had the nut up top. So the nut would spin. So then, but again, it goes back to not having the right tools. So I was trying to use a Dremel, then I ended up drilling it out. But it took me couple of days just to kind of figure out the best approach. But I had the comfort of, being able to walk away, leaving the car the way it is, and saying, you know what, let me maybe have another idea tomorrow. But I definitely feel your pain.
That's what I should have done with my airbag incident with the 997. It was, I remember starting that job while the kids who were still very young were having their dinner, and I was like running out for 20 minutes at a time and coming back. And it got to about 11:30 at night. I had work the next day because I think it was a Sunday night. And that's where, I ended up taking the knife to the front of the airbag and just stabbing the shit out of it like I was in a Scream movie. But had I come back the next day, I would have probably managed to get it out. And just like the way my friend Steve and Scott and Patrick came over the next day to take a look at this, because obviously I went to bed sending photos to my friends at like 1 a.m, being like, guys, I can't believe I've just done this. They came over, sat down, took one look at it, and within about 30 seconds, it was out of the wheel. And I was just kicking myself that I just, made a $400 mistake.
We've all done it.
Yeah. But you live to talk about it. Yeah, it's an experience.
Yeah, and to be fair, it made for a good YouTube video, I guess. So there's always a silver lining.
Yeah. I think the worst one is when you go through that process and then you get to the end, and you've come through the fire, you've come to the other side, and then you're not happy with the mod. And that's just heartbreak. It's like, okay, now I need to reverse all of that. And then I need to sell this thing or send it back. I just end up putting all these parts that I've put on my car and decided didn't work in storage. I really need to sell them at some point.
Has that happened? Yeah, has that any sort of anything fresh in your memory?
Yeah, look, I've done, what's a good example? I think that the tricky thing with air-cooled cars compared with the modern water-cooled stuff is you can plug a laptop into a modern water-cooled car, do a flash tune and gain 125 horsepower, right? Whereas those sorts of gains on an air-cooled car are really, well, you don't get those sorts of gains unless you invest significant money and probably build a new engine. But look, nothing specific right now. I remember when I changed my seats, I bought some turbo seats for my car, which are the wrong color, and I had them sitting there for a long, long time, wanting to put them in the car, but I didn't want to because they were the wrong color. And I thought I'd wait till I could afford to have them upholstered. And at some point, I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to put them in anyway. Let's just get that done, because I just wanted to drive with them. They have a lot deeper side bolstering on them, which is brilliant compared with the stock seats. And they looked beautiful. And when I got them in the car, which actually took a bit of work, in fact, it was really difficult. When I finally got them in, they sounded like a pair of seats that had come off an old Cadillac that had spent its time in a really humid environment. They were so creaky. It was unbelievable. So I spent then the better part of 2 weeks conditioning the leather. I went down this rabbit hole on YouTube of, okay, you need to put leather conditioner on it, then wrap the entire seat in like cling film or Glad wrap, as we call it here. And my wife's walking out into the garage saying, why have you got Glad wrap all around your seats? They're not a salad. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, Dovedale, it's perfectly normal. Nothing to worry about. So yeah, look, in actual fact, that modification has been really good. I did a muffler not so long ago that as soon as I put it on, I took it for one drive and went, no, absolutely not. That's coming off immediately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't even have quick jacks. For me, it's putting the car up on a ramp. So I hate lying there with that little room under the car working on the muffler. But yeah, it was literally as soon as the car was cool enough, it came straight back off. Now, swapping a secondary muffler on a 964 is, I don't know, a half-hour job, a 45-minute job. So it's not really that problematic, but so disappointing, when you've just got that anticipation of, oh yeah, here it is. I've got it done, it's set, and then the result is meh.
I actually, that's just happened to me this week. I bought a carbon fiber rear diffuser for my car almost immediately after I bought it a year ago. It sat in my garage waiting for me to put it on. I got round to doing it the other day, and the fucker doesn't fit.
That's pretty good then. No, that's good news. That's good news. Can you still return it?
Well, I don't know. I bought it.
You didn't attack it with a Dremel, did you, to try and make it?
No. You know what? If it was that kind of a challenge where I needed to affix it, then I probably would have been able to do it. But no, it wasn't even close. It wasn't even close to fitting. It was, apart from having the tailpipes in the center, it must have been 3 or 4 inches off in every dimension possible. It was ridiculous. It was like carbon fiber for a clown car, which is stupid.
No. Since we're talking about James's car, I have to compliment you, James, on those wheels.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely amazing wheels. Once, definitely looks like a 4x4 vehicle now, but once you lower it, I think it'll be perfect, and it's just the right blend of sort of something new and sort of a nice throwback to something old.
I appreciate it.
Choice.
Thank you. Honestly, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to get non-factory wheels, because I've got this thing about factory wheels, but I've really enjoyed them so far. I do like the look.
And one thing that I really like about those wheels, and I think eventually I will have to get similar wheels, they're easy to clean. All the wheels that I have are just and I'm someone I really, maybe it's not a popular thing to say during a car podcast, but I really don't like spending time washing my cars. I would like it to be super, if money was no object, I would PPF all my cars and just quickly wash everything with one rag and call it a day. But and then having to just squeeze my fingers into the spokes and behind the spokes, just it's the worst. But having just 5 spokes on a wheel, it's perfect.
I I agree with you 100%. I mean, I wash my car all the time. I think everyone thinks I love to wash my car. I actually don't. I get some pleasure out of detailing it, to be honest, but the BBS rims are just such a nightmare to wash. And yeah, just give me a set of 5-spoke rims that you can just done. Gosh, I'd be happy.
I've got the answer for both of you. Never wash your cars. You don't need to. There's no need.
Yes,
no one cares. No one cares. And if you care, go to a touchless car wash. You sit there, it takes 5 minutes, and it gets it good enough.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I guess on a darker car, maybe my car that's, the yellow, when it gets dirty, I like looking at it when it's dirty because it shows that it's being used. But then, when I wash it, it just, it's like it's like a brand new car. But one sort of not regret, because I guess it was never an option for me at that time. But I wish my car had ceramic brakes, so that way I would have
didn't get the
less,
brake dust.
Yeah.
Have you tried the ceramic? The ceramic composite brake pads? They're not as good, obviously, as the PCCBs, but they really do reduce the amount of brake dust that your brakes put out. Like Hawk, I think it's Hawk do a pretty good set of those.
I've tried those pads on another vehicle, and it was scary how little initial bite there was compared to OEM. So I didn't want to mess with that. But I know a lot of people do use those, and I know they work very well.
Yeah.
But on the M5 with the ceramic brakes, I wash the wheels once every 2 months, and it's great. Very little dust.
That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, yeah, look, I obsess about having my car clean. I love it being clean. But we have one rule, James, that I know you guys don't have on your rallies, and that is a strict no car washing during the rally rule. Because who is it in your group who washes it in the morning and then in the afternoon the same day after
my mate Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Every day. Yeah. When we do a 50-mile drive on a Sunday, he'll take his car home. He won't just wash his wheels. He'll take the wheels off the car to clean the insides of them and put the wheels back on.
That's impressive. Yeah, because usually when I get home from a drive like that, I want to go inside and start trying to earn back some domestic credit.
There we go. You and me both.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, it's been so good having you on the pod. This has been a long time coming, I know. So thank you for being patient with us. But gee, it's been great having you here.
No, I love it. Thank you for having me. I also, I don't feel like I fit because I don't have a British accent. You hear my Polish accent, but it's I do listen to a lot of podcasts. Most of them happen to be foreign podcasts, so that's so I really do enjoy them. And listening to your podcasts, and even though you haven't posted one in a while, so hopefully that can change. We gotta make sure you get your consistency out there. But it's really refreshing listening to your podcast because you two are very passionate about the Porsche world. Have a lot of subject matter expertise. Have personal experiences with it. No, you do. You kind of. Yeah, maybe you take it for granted now, but there will be there's a lot of people out there who would love to have a clean 964, right, with BBS wheels. That's or James, same thing with you. You made such a great decision buying the car that you did because slightly higher mileage, but you got you got it for an amazing price, and it's going to be something reliable, and that's always going to put a smile on your face.
Tommy, that's so kind, because usually I have to hear Andy explain that we're just a couple of knuckleheads talking about our cars. That's a much more eloquent description.
We need to have Tommy just give us a little bit of validation pre-record every time, James.
Yeah, I hope you continue. And one thing before we end, I do have to add that my connection with... Because Andy, I met, I was connected through you. I was connected with you through James, but James, I was actually connected with James way before James and I met. So with the Cayman, when I was changing the gauges, guess which gauges I ordered for my Cayman? The auto amateur gauges. So So I still have the sticker that came with it. So and then wait a minute, that guy has a YouTube channel, and he's always in his garage, always tinkering with that funky camera angle. I kind of like that. So you always have the car in the background. Yeah, so it's no, that's it. I just wanted to mention that.
That's very kind. Well, and those gauges look great in your Cayman. I hope you're displaying your auto amateur sticker proudly on your wife's Volvo or whatever she's driving.
Yeah, no, I have it. I have it in the. I have the state. I never ended up putting it on, but I have it in my. I have it in the office. But yeah, but I think it's also cool that you have the little side gig, and you make these things. And I know you also make him you make newer looking gauges for the older cars, right? Like for example, the 992 looking one for a 991, right?
That's right. Yes, yeah, that's right. I've got a new designer actually. So I've got a second kind of generation of gauge faces now. Like they've evolved over the last 18 months, and we've got several sort of different styles that you can add to any of the generations, going back actually to the 964, Andy, if you're ever interested. And they're factory quality.
They look good. They look very good.
Cool.
So anyway, there we go. Well, Tommy, thank you so much for joining. Everybody, Tommy L Garage or Garage on YouTube and Instagram. I no doubt will be in touch with you a lot over the next few weeks as I start to hack around in my garage with all of these mods. But thanks, mate, for coming on the pod. It's been absolutely awesome having you.
Thank you, gentlemen, once again. It was a lot of fun.
Tommy, it's been great, mate. Thanks ever so much, and let's stay in touch.
Dude, I'm so glad we got Tommy on the pod. That's wicked. I mean, we only dropped his name about 17,000 times in the last episode accidentally. But
yeah, that dude owes us. I mean, realistically, we've promoted his channel more than anybody.
I know, it's like, well, let me say this. I want to find his old skateboarding videos and whatever Tommy Extreme was way back when he was driving beige Volvos. But what a nice guy, absolutely lovely guy. If you haven't checked him out yet, listeners, Tommy L Garage, YouTube extraordinaire, and he's on Instagram. And as you can tell, obviously super nice guy. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was great, and so considered in his answers. And, there were a couple of things that really stood out to me. I love that when it comes to YouTube, he's not doing it for the views or the subscribers. He's not worried about his stats. He's not spending his time losing sleep over that stuff. He just wants to document this journey and almost seemingly just leave something behind. I love that. And the other thing that really struck me was this gratitude that he has. He is so humble, and to be talking about feeling so grateful for being able to be driving a 911. I just love that. That was such a great chat. I loved having him on the pod.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should get him back. Certainly, after I've lowered my ride height and I can start complaining to the both of you about how terrible it drives.
We won't hear a word of it. We'll be like, no, it's way better. It has to be better.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for checking in for another episode of Curb and Canyon. There'll be another one coming soon, I'm sure. ... Insert days, months, not sure how long ago, or long in the future. But we'll be back soon. Andy, right? Please.
We absolutely will. And this one's been a great one. It's been a whole lot of fun. So thank you all for joining us and having a listen. And we will see you on the next one.
Cheers.